Hello, and welcome to another episode of the CIRS Group Podcast. I'm Barbara,
And I'm Jacie.
and today we would like to do an updated episode all about the NeuroQuant, which is a special brain MRI that really I think everybody should get, but especially CIRS patients. And we'll explain why and all that fun stuff in today's episode. But of course, before we get into that, none of this is medical advice. We are not medical professionals, and we're certainly not your medical professionals. Always consult with your doctor about any special tests or things that you would like them to order, including the NeuroQuant. And of course, we'll talk more about that today so you can decide if that's something you do want to ask your doctor about.
Yeah, and if you want more in-depth information on the NeuroQuant, because we're definitely going over high-level stuff today, but we did do an episode previously with Dr. Christian Navarro-Torres all about the NeuroQuant. So if you watch this episode and you're like, brain scans, give me more, definitely check out that episode because there's a lot of information in there as well.
Yep, absolutely. So, first of all, in case you don't know, when you have CIRS or chronic inflammatory response syndrome, generally speaking, I would argue the biggest organ in the body that is affected is the brain. Even if you have lots of other different symptoms that are showing up everywhere in your body, pain and all sorts of other things, there's a lot of inflammation happening in the brain. And when you get CIRS, what generally happens is your brain gets more and more inflamed, which kind of makes it get bigger, believe it or not. And then at some point it can't get like it's limited on space and your brain will shut off the inflammation process, which will then cause it to shrink back down and get atrophic. Atrophic. So that's what's happening in the brain. And the NeuroQuant is a brain MRI that will allow your doctor to see exactly where on that scale of inflammation or atrophy that your brain is, and that's going to inform your treatment.
Well said. I don't even know why I'm here today.
No, that's definitely not.
So the NeuroQuant was actually developed to help people identify dementia, like early stages of dementia. So the studies originally done on the NeuroQuant were really looking at brain atrophy in dementia patients. But what Dr. Shoemaker did was he found the statistically significant volumetric changes for CIRS patients. And there's like a mold score and a Lyme score that you can look at those like general high level scores are not as useful as looking at the individual levels of inflammation or atrophy in your brain, which is definitely something your provider should go over with you. And if you like, I know I'm plugging Dr. Christian Navarro Torres twice in a row, but like he's a neuroscientist. So like if you really want to dig deep into your neuroquant, definitely book consult a
Yeah,
consultation with him.
yeah.
And we'll leave his link down below. We don't get a kickback on that or anything. Well, like any of the links we do, we don't get kickbacks on anything, but honestly, it's such a great resource. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. And there are different, what I was going to look up and what I am looking up right now, if you're watching the video, I'm like all over the place. But there's a lot of different reports that you will get when you get your NeuroQuant, and it will list out those volumetric changes and differences as compared to a person of your approximate gender and age for normalness or not. English. I love how I say things. Boy, I would never change it. Anyway, basically, you actually want to be, this is something to keep in mind when you're going over your report. You actually want to be close to 50%, 50th percentile, I should say, because that means you're kind of average. You're boring. But if you are 99th percentile in some areas, like I am, that means that your brain is so inflamed, you are like the 99th percentile big on the scale of bigness. And of course, on the other side, if you are 30 or lower, that means that's how much smaller that part of your brain is as compared to someone of your comparableness.
Demographics.
Thank you. And you said, why am I here earlier? Please.
So a couple reasons why you might want to get a neuroquant is as a CIRS patient. as Barbara said, it can show you the current state of your brain. But two, it's also really helpful as a marker of progress during your treatment. So if you get a neuroquant at the beginning, and I think we said this in an episode at some point, like if we had all the money in the world, we would have both gotten a neuroquant at the very beginning of treatment.
Yeah,
Because what you can do is over time, you can retake the NeuroQuant and then see the volumetric changes in your brain over time. And you can actually see those volume changes repair after doing like the 12 months of VIP. That's kind of the standard in the Shoemaker protocols. You would do the NeuroQuant at some point before VIP and then after 12 months of VIP. The other reason you might want to do a NeuroQuant as a CIRS patient is so that you can help yourself and your provider identify what biotoxins you may have been exposed to. This is not foolproof. Definitely check out our Lyme episode if you haven't already, Lyme tick-borne. There is a Lyme score. However, it's not a pass fail in terms of, oh, I didn't have a Lyme score on my NeuroQuant, therefore I don't have tick-borne. It doesn't work like that. It's just an indicator that you might. And again, the individual differences in the volume changes in your brain of the different structures in your brain might actually tell you more in terms of whether you or not you might be dealing with Lyme tick-borne than that score. I
right.
know that's a confusing thing to hear.
It's annoying. And case in point, I love to use myself as an example because I'm an open book. My Lyme score was 1. I have since tested positive for chronic Lyme. When I would not have thought, oh, Lyme score of 1 on my NeuroQuant would that's not why I went and tested. Let's just put it that way. So so that's something to keep in mind. Just because the score is one way doesn't preclude you from having that thing, but it is more information. And as Jacie said, utilize someone like Dr. Christian Navarro Torres or your doctor, your CIRS doctor should also be able to interpret your NeuroQuant, or they should tell you if they can't. And so at that point, you could reach out to someone like Christian and have them really look at each individual part of your brain and what it is because a asymmetry will tell them something. That may indicate, a traumatic brain injury at some point if one side of a particular part of your brain is smaller than the other equivalent side, for example. So those are things to look at. And again, that's going to inform your treatment. It's going to help you understand where your symptoms are coming from. If a particular part of the brain is affected, then you know that explains X, Y, and Z symptoms, for example. That's what can be useful for you as you're going through treatment and looking to heal. So as you are, like Jacie said, on VIP and regrowing parts of your brain, if you notice the associated symptoms start to get a little bit better, start to seem to heal, then that's something you can look at on the next NeuroQuant when you go back and get your second one.
And just an adjacent topic, sometimes people will ask us, well, should I get the NeuroQuant or the GENIE? The GENIE being the test that shows the gene expression of certain genes as impacted by the inflammation. And it really depends on where you are at in your CIRS journey. If you are trying to understand, why you're stalling, why you're not doing so well, I would recommend the GENIE personally because it can give you more detail in terms of one, the biotoxin you might be dealing with, but two, the metabolic processes or, thyroid dysfunction that might be impacting your ability to heal. Methylation issues is a big one too. So I just feel like the GENIE gives you a more granular picture of your current state, whereas the NeuroQuant shows you it's kind of like high level the impact over time, and it can show your risk to longer term issues like dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. So I think both are useful. It's just contextual. But in terms of like, hey, I've stalled in my treatment, which one should I do? I would recommend the GENIE.
Yeah, totally agree and beautifully said. So I've at this point gotten 2 NeuroQuant, so I'm a bit of a professional, I suppose, at this point. But we will have some resources in the description as far as like where to get one for yourself. Your doctor should be the one to order this. So the reason I'm giving any locations or places for you to check out is because these are the places that seem to at least know what the heck a NeuroQuant is if you were to call them. And that is something I definitely recommend you do when you do select a location to get your NeuroQuant, call them and ask them verbally, get that confirmation that they know what a NeuroQuant is. They're familiar with that. It is an MRI without contrast. You do not need contrast to do it. And so just make sure that they have the correct machinery and software there at that particular location to handle that. I know for me, I found the company, one of the companies that do the NeuroQuants, they only had one location near me out of several locations that could do specifically the NeuroQuant. So obviously I had to make sure to go to that particular location. As of the time of this recording, some companies that you may want to look into that at least some locations have heard of a NeuroQuant are called Simon Med Imaging, Reyes Radiology, US Radiology Specialists, and Envision Radiology. So those are the companies to check out. Again, I'll have that listed in the description, but and don't just assume all of them have it. Call them, call your specific location and make sure of it before you actually put the order in and decide to go. And then on a personal level, I do get a little bit of anxiety going into a NeuroQuant or MRI situation. I've had several now because in addition to the two NeuroQuants, I've also had to get a couple MRIs on my back. It is a weird experience. The machines are very loud. It can be claustrophobic, even if you don't suffer from claustrophobia, which I really don't feel like I do. It's just like an unnerving situation. I'm also like super paranoid. I've forgotten some metal somewhere on my body and then it's gonna fly through me and kill me in mid. Like that's not a real, by the way, that's not real. Like if you walked in to a place, it's more that the metal will heat up and burn you. Like that's like the bigger like fear. Of course, you don't want metal anywhere on your body, but you would know as soon as you walk into the room if there's a problem. You wouldn't be like laying down mid MRI. Like if you've gotten that far and you're fine, you're probably fine, I guess is my point. My anxiety doesn't know logic though. So I'll sit there and be freaked out the whole time. But some tips that really help me is to eat beforehand, but not too beforehand, like eat maybe an hour or two before, almost like you would for like a non-fasted blood test or something like that. Like you just want to make sure you've had a decent meal and your stomach isn't full, but like and your body's processed it, so that'll just, help you out. Let the tech know if you are prone to anxiety. When I let my tech know, she was so nice. She spoke to me over the headphones and warned me, okay, the next one's going to be 2 minutes long. Okay, this next one's going to be 3 minutes. And then she played music for me in between. Like she was so sweet. And she gave me a blanket. There's a lot of nice things that she did. So ask for those things if that's something that you think will help you. Yeah. So that was my experience with neuroquants. I feel like an expert now.
I had one MRI and it was when I was first diagnosed with my autoimmune disease before I found out about CIRS. And I remember it being really cold. So I think if I had a recommendation, it would be thick socks.
Yeah.
And
Fix.
like, even if you're not somebody who, like, I didn't have any anxiety in that situation the way you did, but like, it's still a really uncomfortable experience. So, like, thick socks, ask for music, do all the things, even if you don't, because it's just like, it's an uncomfortable thing to do.
Yeah, it's such a flat plastic platform that you're lying on. So, given that you had AS and I have my spondy, like I don't know about you, but when I got up off that thing, I felt like an 80-year-old woman. Like I was like, oh, like I was super stiff just getting up. But you're so right about the coldness. That's why when she offered me a blanket, I happily accepted. And I was actually pretty sweaty by the end of it because I was in there for like at least 30, maybe 40 minutes for two MRIs. But I was happy to be sweating. Like I preferred that over sitting there like shivering and trying to like stay still or whatever. But
And
anyway.
I can't remember if you said the NeuroQuant MRI, how long does that one take?
The NeuroQuant should be about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I shouldn't say this, but like I've had three parts of my body MRI'd at this point. All three of them were about 15 minutes in total. So it's almost like the part of your body you are getting scanned is going to be about 15 minutes. I suppose the approximation is it's almost like each section has to be like like a button needs to be pressed on the other side. So it kind of depends on the tech and how quickly they go through it. And I remember one time, one of the scans, she said, "You know what? I'm gonna go back and redo this last one. I just want to make sure of something. Like, I don't I have no idea why she did that. So that's something that the tech can decide in that moment to make sure they're getting the best quality images as possible. So, yeah.
Got it. Now, the reason we originally wanted to do this episode specifically was because some hot tea in the CIRS community. The surviving mold NeuroQuant is calculated off of the NeuroQuant 3.0. But NeuroQuant's recently upgraded to the 4.0, which the surviving mold group doesn't have a conversion for all the studies that they did. So, one, when you are calling to the NeuroQuant place to see if they can do the NeuroQuant, ask if they have the 3.0, so they might still have that software and still be able to run it. If you're in Colorado, you're in luck because Dr. Dorninger from Roots and Branches is pretty much strong-armed all of the Simon meds in the area to retain the 3.0, but you might luck out wherever you are and be able to get the 3.0. If you can't, if they only have the 4.0, you can get the 4.0 and then and it's so annoying to have to say this, but like you can get it converted. It is about $150 to do so through Roots and Branches. And if you send in your CD to Roots and Branches, they retain the CD. So they'll send you the converted report, but they're not going to give you a copy of your CD back. So definitely one, make sure that you copy it ahead of time if you want to keep that for yourself. But just know that if you have the 4.0, you're not like straight out of luck. You're still going to be able to get it converted and still be able to see the surviving mold scores.
Yeah, that is helpful. And it's annoying that, like, why does the software have to like totally mess up all of the maths?
Yeah.
I don't know if
I'm
maths is the right word, but
If you're British, it is.
yeah.
I'm hopeful that I don't know if Roots and Branches is considering this, and maybe I'll poke Dr. D about it. But if they have all the 4.0 data and they're converting it to the 3.0, I wonder if they could eventually do the calculations to get the same numbers for the 4.0. I hope that's their long-term plan, but honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because they
Um,
would really be the only ones who could do it, because they would have both the 4.0 and 3.0 data to get the like one-to-one conversions.
right. Yeah. But yeah, very important. You don't want your doctor to be analyzing the numbers off of, something that's not quite in line with what the research is showing. So that's why that is important. So make sure you do that.
That was a lot of info about the NeuroQuant. Like I said, if you want a deeper dive into the actual like brain structure changes that you can see in the NeuroQuant, definitely check out that episode we did with Dr. Christian Navarro Torres. This one was really more the broad strokes overview and like how to get it and what it is, etc. But of course, if you're looking for more resources and support, you can join us over at the CIRSgroup.com.
We'll see you there.